The fluorescent lights of Lincoln Elementary buzzed overhead like angry wasps as Sarah Martinez watched the school janitor's weathered hands reach for her son's Spider-Man scarf. In that split second, every protective instinct she'd honed through 7 years of single motherhood exploded into action. Her voice cut through the hallway's silence like a blade. "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing with my son's scarf?" The elderly man froze, his fingers just inches from the red fabric pooled on the polished floor. Students walking by turned to stare, their whispered conversations dying as they sensed the tension crackling between the well-dressed woman in her business suit and the quiet man in maintenance coveralls. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs as she strode forward, her heels clicking authoritatively on the linoleum. She'd been running late again. The quarterly reports had kept her at the office until nearly 6, and now the after-school program was closing. The last thing she needed was some stranger handling her son's belongings. "Ma'am, I was just..." The janitor began, his voice soft and gravelly, worn smooth by years of careful politeness. "Just what? Taking things that don't belong to you?" Sarah's words came out sharper than she'd intended, fueled by exhaustion and the constant pressure of being everything to everyone. "That scarf belongs to my son, Tommy. He's in Mrs. Henderson's after-school group." The janitor straightened slowly, his kind eyes meeting hers without a trace of anger or defensiveness. He was older than she'd initially thought, maybe 70, with silver hair that caught the harsh light and deep lines etched around his eyes like roads on a well-traveled map. Something about his stillness, his complete lack of reaction to her accusation, made her feel suddenly smaller. "I understand your concern," he said quietly, his hands now clasped behind his back. "I wasn't taking anything. I've been watching that scarf for the past hour, making sure no one stepped on it while I finished cleaning the swing." Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks, but her defensive walls remained firmly in place. "Well, you should have taken it to the lost and found. That's what lost items are supposed to." "Mommy." Tommy's voice rang out from the end of the hallway, his backpack bouncing against his small frame as he ran toward them. At 7 years old, he was all elbows and knees, his dark hair sticking up in impossible directions despite her morning attempts to tame it. "You're here." The janitor's entire demeanor shifted as Tommy approached. His weathered face softened, and something that looked almost like longing flickered across his features. He stepped back deferentially as Tommy reached them, but Sarah caught the way his eyes followed her son's movements with an almost grandfatherly tenderness. "I lost my scarf," Tommy announced breathlessly, then spotted the red fabric on the floor. "Oh, there it is." He started to reach for it, but the janitor was already bending down, his movements careful and deliberate. "Here you go, young man," the janitor said, holding out the scarf with both hands as if it were something precious. "I was keeping it safe for you." Tommy beamed up at him. "Thanks, mister." "Just call me Frank," the janitor replied, and Sarah was surprised by the warmth in his voice. "You be careful with that scarf now. It's getting cold out there." "I will. My grandpa gave it to me before he..." Tommy's words trailed off, his face suddenly clouding over the way it always did when he almost mentioned his father or grandfather, the two men who'd shaped his early years before cancer claimed them both within 18 months of each other. Frank's expression grew even gentler. "Before he what, son?" Tommy looked down at his sneakers, suddenly shy. "Before he went to heaven. Mommy says he's watching over me now." Sarah felt her throat tighten. Even after 3 years, Tommy's casual mentions of his father still hit her like physical blows. She cleared her throat, ready to hurry them along, but Frank spoke first. "I bet he is watching over you," Frank said softly. "And I bet he's proud of what a good boy you are. You always say thank you to the lunch ladies, and you pick up trash even when it's not yours. That tells me you were raised right." Sarah stared at him, caught off guard. How could this janitor, this man she'd just accused of stealing, know so much about her son's character? Tommy's face lit up again. "You notice stuff like that?" Frank chuckled, a sound like autumn leaves rustling. I notice everything in this school. It's my job to take care of this place, and that includes keeping an eye on all you kids, making sure you're safe and happy. Something in his tone made Sarah study his face more carefully. There was a depth of care there that went far beyond professional duty, and suddenly her earlier accusation felt not just misplaced but cruel. "Tommy, go get your reading folder from Mrs. Henderson," Sarah said gently. "I need to talk to Mr. Frank for a minute." After Tommy scampered off, Sarah turned back to the janitor, her stomach knotting with shame. "I owe you an apology. I was completely out of line earlier. Frank held up a weathered hand. "No need to explain. You were protecting your boy. That's what good mothers do." "But I accused you of you were scared," Frank said simply. "Fear makes us all say things we don't mean." "Trust me, I understand." There was something in his voice, a weight that suggested hard-earned wisdom. Sarah found herself really looking at him for the first time, not as a potential threat or an inconvenience, but as a person. She saw the careful way he'd folded her son's scarf, the gentle patience in his manner with Tommy, the complete absence of resentment in his response to her harsh words. "You really have been watching out for him, haven't you?" she asked quietly. Frank's eyes grew distant, as if he were seeing something beyond the school hallway. "He's a special boy. Reminds me of someone I used to know." "Oh, another student." Frank was quiet for a long moment, his gaze following Tommy as he emerged from the classroom, chattering excitedly with Mrs. Henderson about something in his folder. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper, and Sarah had to lean in to hear him. "He reminds me of my son when he was that age. Same curiosity, same kindness to everyone he meets, same way of tilting his head when he's thinking hard about something." Sarah felt her breath catch. There was such profound sadness in Frank's voice, layered beneath his gentle words like sediment in a riverbed. "Your son is he. He was killed in Afghanistan 8 years ago," Frank said quietly, still watching Tommy with that mixture of tenderness and longing. "Marine. First deployment." He was 22. The world seemed to tilt around Sarah. Her throat closed completely as the magnitude of her earlier behavior crashed over her. This grieving father who found comfort in caring for other people's child, Rena, and she had attacked him for the simple act of protecting her son's belongings. "Oh God," she whispered. "Frank, I am so sorry." He turned to her then, and she was amazed to see no anger in his eyes, only understanding. "You couldn't have known." And honestly, getting to watch over these kids, making sure they're safe, it helps. It makes me feel like maybe some part of Danny lives on in all the good I can do for other children. Tommy came bounding back, his reading folder clutched in one small fist. "Ready, Mommy?" "Oh, Mr. Frank, do you want to see what I drew today? It's a picture of my family." Frank's face transformed with genuine delight. "I would love to see it." Tommy opened his folder and pulled out a crayon, drawing a stick figures under a bright yellow sun. There was a tall figure labeled Mommy and a smaller one labeled Me, but Sarah noticed with the start that there was also a third figure, larger than both of them, with gray hair and a kind smile. "Who's that?" Frank asked gently, pointing to the third figure. "That's my guardian angel," Tommy said matter-of-factly. "Mommy says everyone has one. Mine looks like Grandpa, but he has a friend now, an angel who takes care of kids at school. Mrs. Henderson says angels are everywhere if you know how to look for them." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes as she watched Frank's face. The older man stared at the drawing for a long moment, his weathered hands trembling slightly as he took in Tommy's innocent words. "That's beautiful, Tommy," Frank managed, his voice thick. "You're very lucky to have such good angels watching over you." Tommy nodded seriously. "Do you have guardian angels too, Mr. Frank?" Frank looked down at the boy, then up at Sarah, and in that moment she saw the full scope of his daily kindness, how he probably knew every child's name, every favorite lunch, every small triumph and disappointment, how he moved through the school not just as maintenance staff, but as a gentle guardian, channeling his grief into protection for hundreds of other people's children. "You know what, son?" Frank said softly. "I think I do, and I think sometimes angels work through people like you, reminding the rest of us how to be kind." As they walked toward the exit together, Sarah felt something fundamental shift inside her chest. The stress and exhaustion that had driven her sharp words earlier seemed trivial now, overshadowed by gratitude for this man who had turned his loss into love for others. At the door, Frank handed Tommy a small wrapped candy cane from his pocket, to apparently his standard goodbye gift for the after-school kids. "You be good for your mom, okay? And remember to wear that scarf. I have a feeling your grandpa would want you to stay warm." Tommy hugged Frank's legs spontaneously, and Sarah watched the janitor's face light up with surprised joy. "Thank you," Sarah said quietly as Tommy skipped ahead to their car. "For everything, for watching out for him, for being so gracious about my rudeness, for being reminded that kindness is always a choice," Frank finished gently. "Thank you for that gift." As they drove home, Tommy chattering about his day, Sarah glanced in her rear-view mirror at the school. Through the windows, she could see Frank methodically turning off lights and checking doors, his quiet dedication ensuring that hundreds of children would return tomorrow to a safe, clean space. She made a mental note to stop by the principal's office the next day and not to complain, but to make sure Frank's extraordinary care was recognized, and maybe, just maybe, to arrange for Tommy to help Frank with some light duties after school. Some people, she realized, were angels in disguise, teaching the rest of us how to love through loss, how to find purpose in protecting others' joy. In the end, the lesson wasn't just about not judging people by appearances or assumptions. It was about recognizing that everyone carries invisible burdens, and that the most profound healing often comes through serving others. Frank had lost his son but found a way to father an entire school. In protecting Tommy's scarf, he had been protecting something far more precious, of the innocence and security that every child deserves. Sometimes angels wear janitor's coveralls and work the evening shift, ensuring that tomorrow brings another day of possibilities for the children they've quietly sworn to protect.